Donald Trump is beating President Joe Biden right now. Here's one key reason that won't last. Whether you're looking at big national polls or polling averages, or most importantly, what's happening in the key swing states that will decide the 2024 election, right now, Donald Trump is either even or ahead of Joe Biden. And that's led Democrats to have one basic reaction.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
So why don't voters seem to get it? I mean, how in the name of all that's holy can Donald Trump, a man indicted on 91 felony counts, an extortionist, a seditionist, a wannabe dictator, be doing so well? Stephen Colbert thinks it's simply because we've just kind of become numb to these things.
Look, I know how numb we've become, but it's not normal.
A lot of pundits think it's because Trump's MAGA army just responds to whatever he says, like that parrot in Aladdin.
Yes, almighty evil one.
But I argue that there's something else, something even more fundamental going on that explains an awful lot about why Trump seems to be defying political gravity and why Republicans in general aren't taking more of a beating for their terrible behavior.
Boebert, the congresswoman was kicked out of the theater. She was vaping, raising her hands and dancing. Boebert occasionally took a break from being disruptive to enjoy the company of her male companion. He briefly had a grasp on the situation.
By the way, I wrote all about this in a new article for Washington Monthly, and I put a lot more information in there if you want to read about it, see more of the numbers for yourself. But here's the upshot. The reason that Trump is where he is that almost no one is paying attention. For people like us who watch or make videos about politics, it may be hard to believe, but a shockingly high number of Americans have almost no idea about the depth of Trump's crimes, or really about most of what's happening in the news, especially political news.
Oh man, I have no idea what's going on.
The share of Americans who say that they're following any news at all dropped 13 points in the last 8 years to just over 1/3 of us. And a big chunk of voters pay almost no attention at all. Here's pollster Ian Smith, who gave a pretty startling number that illustrates this.
This was specifically among swing women. Kind of key finding from that, which was shocking to us, but very important to realize. Political news takes about 10 minutes of people's time per week on average.
Wow.
10 minutes per week.
Just for reference, 10 minutes a week is about the same amount of time that Americans spent brushing their teeth.
Roger, do I have a toothpaste?
That's why in 2023, a year that saw the first indictment of a former president, the ousting of a House Speaker amidst a total Republican chaos meltdown and terrible wars around the world, the news story that Americans heard the most about was that Chinese spy balloon.
I entertain you people for 4 days and then get shot by Biden?
No wonder that when YouGov did a poll at the start of this year, only about half of Americans had even heard that Trump had been charged with any crimes at all. Only 55% had heard about the E. Jean Carroll case. 47% had heard about the case where he was found to have committed fraud and has to pay a $450 million penalty. Just over half had heard about the Stormy Daniels hush money fraud case. Same for the election interference case. What about all the insanity of Trump wanting to be an authoritarian? Well, voters don't know about that either. Only 31% of voters had heard about those statements. So here's the good news. This really matters. The New York Times showed that in swing states, the average 4-point lead for Trump over Biden turns into a 10-point deficit if he were convicted in any of these crimes. And when voters simply hear a lot more information about Trump's indictments, like they did in the summer of 2023, his support among Republicans dropped 6 points. And as voters learn about Trump's authoritarian statements, they start to feel a lot more negative, with 69% saying Trump will bring chaos to the presidency and our country. The point is, Biden and the Democrats have a powerful weapon against Donald Trump: the truth. And voters do start to pay attention as we get a lot closer to Election Day. So there's good reason to think that as people start to pay a lot more attention, they're going to notice the things that the rest of us have known about for a long time, and their views are going to start to swing our way. But here's the note of caution. It's not going to just happen on its own. It's going to take chipping away at Americans' apathy and inattention by bringing them this kind of information. So if you've made it to the end of this video, do us a favor, share it and subscribe to the channel. Help us keep amplifying the truth.